Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly ancient, deeply profound text from our source material, the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're going to be zooming in specifically on Canto 1, Chapter 1, Verse 2. And together, we're going to discover a massive, paradigm-altering shift. We're talking about a roadmap for moving out of our everyday, modern sense of material exhaustion and stepping into a state of absolute spiritual peace.
So let's kick things off by addressing a fundamental modern problem. It's the elephant in the room, really. Why do we still feel so empty when, practically speaking, we have everything? I mean, in our modern world, we've largely mastered economic development, right? Yet, there's this persistent friction, this daily anxiety and lingering emptiness that we just can't seem to shake, despite all our material success.
Section 1. The problem, material reality versus human potential.
To really understand why we feel this emptiness, we first need to strip things down and look at what drives us at our most basic biological level. The source points out that there are 4 primary principles of life: eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. Now, what's truly fascinating here is that these 4 principles, they're common to both humans and animals. According to the text, if our entire lives are wrapped up in just these 4 activities, we're basically indistinguishable from animals. The argument is that true human life literally doesn't even begin until we add a crucial extra function: religion, or the active pursuit of self-realization and an eternal relationship with the divine. But here's where we run into a major roadblock. Because even when we do engage with religion, we almost always do it for the wrong reasons. The source text makes this brilliant observation about modern society. It notes, men are more interested in factories, shops, and cinemas than in religious places which were erected by their forefathers. And this perfectly illustrates how, in the lower stages of civilization, we're completely driven by this nonstop rivalry to satisfy our senses and to act as the lords of material nature. In that mindset, religion is just another tool. It's a vending machine we use to get something material, like health, wealth, or success. And logically, the second people realize they can get those economic gains somewhere else, like at a factory or shop, they just abandon the religious places. The religion becomes totally obsolete the moment it stops paying out material dividends. And because we view everything through this hyper-competitive lens of material mastery, walking around falsely thinking we're the rulers of everything we see, we stay completely trapped in a state of suffering. The text actually categorizes this suffering into what it calls the 3-fold miseries. First, you've got miseries coming from your own mind and body. Second, miseries inflicted on you by other living beings. And third, miseries from natural catastrophes, stuff we literally have zero control over. So the big takeaway here is that as long as we're desperately trying to master the material world just to satisfy our senses, we're going to be constantly tortured by these 3-fold miseries. They are the absolute root of our deep daily anxieties.
Section 2. The shift. Beyond material motives. So, the million-dollar question, how do we escape these miseries? Well, the answer is surprisingly absolute. The text completely throws out the old rulebook. Here is the actual translation of verse 1.1.2. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable to those devotees who are fully pure in heart. So it is entirely rejecting that competitive, materially motivated religion we were just talking about. Instead, it's bringing in a totally new paradigm, a path of pure devotion. Let's break down exactly what that means. In material religion, like we just learned, everyone is essentially envious of everyone else. There's this fierce, never-ending competition between individuals, and even between nations. Even people's religious acts are just another way to compete for a better material standing. But on the flip side, in transcendental religion, the devotees on this path are totally non-envious. They act as genuine well-wishers to everyone. They literally don't compete with the materialist because their goal isn't temporary sense gratification. Their goal is eternal and blissful. They are actually striving to build a completely competitionless society with God at the center. Section 3. The solution. The absolute truth and sincere hearing. Now, a competition-less society sounds absolutely incredible, doesn't it? But how do we actually get there? How do we free ourselves from the constant grind and suffering of the material world? Well, according to the broader Vedic tradition, there's essentially a ladder of spiritual paths. Step 1 is karma kanda, which is all about doing fruitive activities to get better material conditions. Step 2 is upasana kanda, where you worship various demigods hoping to be promoted to higher planets. Step 3 goes a bit deeper with jnana kanda, where you seek to realize the impersonal aspect of the absolute truth and merge with it. But the text points out that every single one of these lower steps still involves some subtle level of competition or sense gratification. The Srimad Bhagavatam, which is step 4, skips all those lower competitive rungs entirely. It aims straight at the absolute highest feature, the personal feature of the supreme truth.
To really wrap our heads around this, the text introduces this profoundly beautiful philosophical concept, the simultaneously one and different philosophy. Grasping this is an absolute game changer. It teaches that the energy of the Lord is at once identical with the Lord, yet distinctly separate. Think of it like the sun and the sun's rays. They're exactly the same in quality, right? But they are vastly different in quantity. The text explains that the true devotee realizes they are one with the absolute in quality, but at the same time, they recognize they are in the eternal position of a servant to the absolute. The moment you truly grasp this, it immediately shatters that false ego we talked about earlier, that exhausting illusion that we are the lords of material nature.
There's actually another amazing metaphor in the text to make this super clear. The Supreme Lord is described as the total body, and all other entities, including those demigods mentioned in the earlier Vedic steps, are simply parts of that body. Think of it this way. If you want to nourish your hands and your legs, you don't rub food directly on your hands, do you? No, you put the food into your stomach, and that organically nourishes the entire system. By directing your devotion to the total body, the Supreme Lord, you completely bypass the need for all those complex material rituals or separate worship. You're just nourishing the root directly.
Okay, so what's the actual mechanism for doing this? How do we spark this sacred inner transformation? The text gives us a very specific Sanskrit word, shushrushu. This translates to the sincere, anxious, and submissive desire to hear the transcendental message. The source makes it crystal clear that if you come at this with a challenging, arrogant attitude, you're not going to get anywhere. We have to actively cultivate a humble eagerness just to listen. The text notes that while the process itself is simple, applying it is actually incredibly difficult for modern people. We can somehow find hours for idle, political, or social chatter, but the second we're asked to just sit and sincerely listen to spiritual truth, we suddenly become reluctant.
But, and this is a big but, if we can achieve that state of sincere hearing, the promised result is nothing short of profound. The text states that as soon as someone attentively and submissively hears this message, the Supreme Lord is established right within their heart. It really is described as being that liberating. Through this pure, non-competitive, active, receptive hearing, the heavy burden of material illusion just dissolves. Those threefold miseries we talked about, uprooted instantly, and a sacred, transcendental silence takes over your consciousness.
It is just such a fascinating look at an ancient solution to a very modern problem. We spend so much of our lives endlessly competing, striving for this impossible material mastery, and then wondering why we're still so anxious. The Srimad Bhagavatam offers us a radical alternative. Abandon the material motives, let go of the envy, and cultivate a pure heart through submissive hearing. So I want to leave you with this final thought to reflect upon as you navigate the noise of modern life and seek your own path to inner peace today. Are you ready to stop competing with the material world and simply listen?